Welcome back to Raiders in Focus, the Randolph School podcast. I'm Elizabeth Crampsey, Director of Marketing and Communications.
And I'm Glenn Belo, Director of Admission and Enrollment. We're so glad you're joining us today.
On this podcast, we take listeners inside Randolph. We share the stories, programs, and values that shape our community and guide the decisions we make as a school.
Today's conversation is one that comes up often for both prospective and current families. Tailored tuition.
It's a topic that can feel complicated or even intimidating, so our goal today is to walk through it in a clear, transparent, and approachable way.
We're joined today by Adam Bernick, Assistant Head of School for Advancement and Strategy.
Adam oversees the advancement team and works closely with school leadership on long-term planning and sustainability. Glenn and I are lucky to report to him, and he brings a really thoughtful perspective to tailored tuition and how it fits into Randolph's mission. He's an outstanding leader, and we're excited to have him with us today.
Yes, 100%. Adam, we're so glad you're here. Thank you and welcome to Raiders in Focus.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Adam, before we dive in, can you explain your role to our listeners? You sit at the crossroads of so many things: our financial model, our growth, philanthropy, building, advancement, you name it.
Yeah. When my son was younger, he would say, "Daddy, what is it that you do at Randolph?" And I said, "Well, my job is to make the school better." So I kind of lead with that because it can be a little tricky to paint the picture. But I'll say this, that I am in a place where I get to do with plenty of other great people, some big thinking. We think about implications of our decision making. We really try to align our action steps so we can create real, durable, positive change for kids and teachers, right? So everything that I do, I try to think about with the future in mind. The things that we do today, how they impact tomorrow, and work with our community so that we're in alignment.
Adam Bernick is one of the busiest people on campus, and Elizabeth and I get to see all the work that you do, and the school truly is a better place for your work. From my seat in admission, and we work closely in all things admission, we talk to families about the affordability of Randolph and how it might be a little bit out of reach, and they never sometimes ask the question, is there a model where I could attend Randolph? Our family could come. Why is it important to you that families understand how tailored tuition actually works?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think about families who might be applying for tailored tuition, and I also think about families who will never apply for tailored tuition. And I think both groups of families should understand what it is and why we use this model. Knowing what it is important, and knowing what it isn't is also important, because a lot of this can be very confusing. And most importantly to me, tailored tuition process and the results are not binary. They're not necessarily black and white. There's a lot of conversation that goes into this. And, in many cases, in fact, all cases, I guess, there are not two families whose situation is identical, right? So getting into the work of this, talking with people, and really asking the right questions helps everyone to understand what we're talking about with tailored tuition. I think about, when families do talk with us, why do we care? Why do we get into this work? And there are many, many families for whom Randolph is very, very close in their minds to be the right choice for them, but they might not consider us because of our price tag. And that's something that we thought a lot about when we really rebranded this program several years ago. We wanted to attract people to learn more about it.
Oftentimes, families assume that anyone talking about tailored tuition works in admission or finance, and that's not the case for you. So, can you share how you're connected to tailored tuition, and why is this a passion project for you? Is it something that's near and dear to your heart?
Yeah, yeah. So let me start off with my own little personal story. I'm the beneficiary. I was a student myself once who enjoyed an incredible education because of a program like tailored tuition. My parents were incredibly supportive, wonderful parents, but they did not attend college. And for them, their dream for me was to go to college. I looked at a number of schools, all types of schools. And the one that believed in me was Vanderbilt University. And I am grateful because of the aid package I received there. Honestly, I'd be sitting here today. And, one of the things I care about a lot is making sure to pay that back. So I'm a supporter of Vanderbilt because I believe that the work they did for me was excellent, and I want to see other students benefit in the same way. So from a philanthropic perspective, that's something I get to bring to the table when we're all coming together to talk about tailored tuition, its philosophy, what it does and how it helps to create a cohort.
Let's talk about current families for a moment. We know that our audience is a mix of prospective and current families across the universe. So life changes and financial circumstances change. So part of our role is to encourage families to revisit tailored tuition year after year if something shifts. From your perspective, why is that so important?
Yeah. I don't know too many people whose financial profile never changes. It seems like everyone is in a dynamic place. The economy's dynamic, jobs are dynamic. Many might be young professionals and they want this experience for their children. It is just a little beyond reach. And they join us, and the tailored tuition program helps them to make this a reality for their children. After a few years, their financial profile has changed. Other examples would be current families who have life changing events that occur. Could be a job loss, it could be a house fire. These could be things that happen because we're all vulnerable people in a world that is shifting and changing around us. And so yes, tailored tuition is a year by year thing because no family's financial position is static year over year. It always is changing. And I think that's really important for folks to understand about the way the model works.
Such an important point that tailored tuition is not a one time decision, it's an ongoing partnership. But let's start with the basics here. So, when we say tailored tuition, what does that actually mean at Randolph?
Yeah, so we use a need based model, right? These are tricky words sometimes. People will say scholarships, people will say grants, people will say different things. Is it merit based? Is need based financial aid? We do not offer merit based per se. We do not have scholarships that are assigned to particular profiles of students and whatnot. Ours is need based, and it's really pure and simple. We take this approach because that's the approach that the finest independent schools across the country take. We fall into a category, like many schools, that focus purely on need based aid.
I want to talk a little bit about prospective families and the admission process for admission acceptance. We are big on surveys and have polled lots of our current families, prospective families, admission staff to learn exactly what would they like to know about tailored tuition. And one of the recurring questions is, does my application for tailored tuition impact the admission decision? And this is an important point that I know you'll join me in explaining. We do review admission applications based on the merit of that application and with no regard to an application for tailored tuition. And that is clear and part of our process. And then from that point, we go to the tailored tuition committee if a family has applied for tailored tuition. And depending on the time frame, and I'll talk a little bit about timelines in a second, is whether or not we can move forward with an enrollment offer.
That's right. Families often want to know one thing before the other, and this is a challenge for a lot of families, right? To really try to wrap their heads around why do I participate in both processes at the same time? And I would say that to your point, a child's admissibility, their academic merits for being at the school are coming from one committee, but the financial overview that it takes place with the Tailored Tuition Committee is very separate. Having those happen at the same time helps us to move the process along further and in a much healthier way for the applicant. But those are separate processes, and that's a really important point.
So let's dive in a little bit to the actual process. And if you will, talk about our tailored tuition process at a high level and share what families can expect.
Yeah. We use a product called Fax. It's a third party. I call it the calculator. It's my code name because some folks don't really know exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the party here. But we invite families to go through a Fax application, which is confidential. It's a platform that has top notch security. So families will upload their documentation. It might be similar to reporting your taxes and things like this. And that process really helps create the calculations that inform the decisions that are made, right? These calculations are based upon ranges that are set out there, anticipated percentage of your mortgage or anticipated levels of debt that a family may have. So it's looking at all these things and trying to make guided decisions to help the school understand where a family is in their financial profile. And that's an incredibly great resource for us. And so then it provides us with a calculation that we can begin to wrap our heads around.
And FACS is not something that is unique to Randolph, right? So this is a tool that many, many independent schools use, and it ultimately does the same thing for those schools as well.
That's exactly right. Many of the private schools in the Huntsville, Madison area use FACS. So we felt like it was a good fit for this community for us to adopt, and we've tracked it for several years now, and have a lot of confidence in the platform.
You often say that everyone sacrifices, but that sacrifice should feel equitable. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Sure. So I hope I don't come across as being a little preachy here, but I guess for me, when I think about the word sacrifice, I cannot help but think about this part from the book of Luke, right, with the widower and who gives the 2 coins, and she's given everything she has. And when I think about that, I realize that sacrifice likely does mean something different for everybody. Okay, so there's that. What does sacrifice mean to me in my head and for all the families at Randolph? I am confident there's not a single family here that does not sacrifice. Everyone sacrifices to send their kids to Randolph. I think the beauty of the tailored tuition program is it helps to right size that sacrifice just a little bit more. It's not perfect. There isn't a perfect platform or model out there, but for us, this makes it a lot more doable for families. And it may be a few $100s, it may be a couple $1,000s that make the difference that help right size that sacrifice for them.
Let's talk a little bit about the application itself. And I think now might be a good time for me to mention deadlines. Again, back to those questions that we get quite often, those FAQs. There is a little bit of confusion around deadlines. So, for current families who would want to return to Randolph next year, there's a December 15th deadline that just passed this week to apply for a tailored tuition. And the reason that we have that early deadline is because the fax application is completed. It takes fax at least 2 weeks to review and make a recommendation to us. And then we'll get to our internal Randolph committee in just a moment. But that review then happens in January. And then for prospective families, obviously, the time that you apply for admission is the time you should apply for a tailored tuition. We say on our website January 15th is the time to apply if you are going to be new to our school next fall, and it talks about priority consideration. So if you join us in spring or summer, we will have a conversation with you if you are interested in applying for tailored tuition. And then at that point, we really have rolling admissions. That's where we are now with our current and returning students because many families are reaching out saying, oh, goodness, I know it's the holidays. I haven't quite done it. We will work with you always to get that application complete. But we do have those guidelines, those deadlines in place so that we can do our job to be responsive to the community that is tailored tuition. Having said all of that, once FACS does its work and its review and provides the school a recommendation, let's talk about what happens next.
Yeah, so there's a very small committee we refer to as our tailored tuition committee. It's a group of administrators who come together and look over these numbers. We want to see that they make sense. We want to make sure that there were no glitches or issues with the calculation that we would have received from facts. Ultimately, it's taking a lot of documentation and it's crafting a number based on AGI and other aspects for the family. And so we want to make sure it makes sense. We always think that there is a thoughtful human process that should be involved in this work. So that is what we are participating in when we're doing that. And it's a very kind of quiet group, right? As we come together, finances are private matters. We understand that it can be uncomfortable for families to feel like they're going through such a process. So we treat this with great care. In our minds, we are looking for a quality control aspect for the FACS program, and we also know that families are all on various time frames depending on when they go through this. Glenn, you mentioned the dates.
Exactly.
I think that's really important that we're attentive to those.
Yes, and it is a sacrifice, but it's also an investment. I can't think of a better investment than your child's education. I love how our mission statement states that above all, the school emphasizes honor, integrity, and character so that all in partnership with Randolph are elevated and inspired to enrich their families, communities, the nation, and the world. So, truly a great investment. Let's get back to the numbers. Can you share a little context about how many families participate in tailored tuition or any fast facts that you have handy?
Yeah, so we know that, gosh, is it about 1 every 5 students at Randolph, has some sort of tailored tuition, some sort of financial support, and again, it's not binary, it's not all or nothing, right? We know that for some families, it's a few $100s, and for some, it's a few $1,000s, so, a wide variety there of tailored tuitions.
1 in 5, that's a helpful statistic, about 20% of families.
Tailored tuition has been called many things as we've covered in the past, many different iterations, but it has been part of the fabric of Randolph's programs for a long time. Can we dive in into how this program reinforces Randolph's mission?
So I love this little bitty saying from one of the founding members of the school who said, Randolph should be a place for children who are willing and able to do good work. They didn't say anything else about it. And I have read through just about every document in our archives trying to understand exactly what we were looking for in 1959 when we first started attracting students. And I think that that 100% holds up today, that we are still looking for children who are willing and able to do good work. We are really fortunate today to be in a community, a thriving community of Huntsville, Alabama, that has created a great deal of demand for us at Randolph. We are seeing really strong numbers. We're seeing lots of families who want to be with us. And gosh, Glenn, you know how hard we work to place these students who we fall in love with and who we believe are very mission appropriate for the school.
But I love how you mentioned the willing and able. I actually used it in a conversation with a family yesterday.
Yeah,
So it is something that is our North Star.
it absolutely is. And, the good problem that we have right now in many cases is that demand is so strong. We are really working to make sure we're looking case by case at every single student. And that actually means that we're looking case by case at the tailored tuition program. When we have a cohort of kids, and I use the word cohort, it's the grade, some would say the class of students, right, in a particular grade. We know that it needs to have excellence across the board, right? It needs to have a lot of fantastic students who can improve and make our school better. I'm a former band director, right? And I know that there are others who have explored the program in different ways. So we want to have graduates out there one day that really do great work in all kinds of ways. And when we do this work, we're looking at how many different students we can support, and so I wish I could say it's an unlimited number of awesome students, but we know that there's so much demand that we cannot place every child that we would like to place. And that's one of the hardest facts about what we do. I say that to suggest that the tailored tuition, some would assume can serve any family from any different financial profile at any given time. And the reality is, we have so many seats and we have so many spots at the various financial profiles. And so we work very hard to be thoughtful about that. Glenn, this gets to your point about the dates, right? We want to encourage families to work quickly and early so that they receive the strongest amount of consideration. That's not to say they shouldn't apply later in our process, because we're often looking for just the right fit to the cohort later in the year as well.
You brought up something earlier that really resonated with me, and it's the power of seeing students who once received aid growing up to give back. You oversee development, you personally give back to Vanderbilt now. Can you elaborate on that full circle impact?
Yeah, I'll say this. We have a Randolph parent here. I won't mention his name, but I asked him once why he supports the school in the way he does, and he's a donor who has made very impactful gifts to the school, and he said because when he was a student, he was supported in these types of ways. He got the kind of support that his family needed in a moment in time that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to stay at the school. And with that support, he never forgot that, and it shaped his time here at the school. It shaped his time in college. And now as a Randolph parent, he is very supportive, and I know that's one of the things that drives his giving. I fall into this category, and I think a number of people do because we know that not everyone starts in the same place in life. We know that great kids deserve great opportunities, and although we can't have a we can't accommodate every child out there who we wish we could, there are several we can support, and Tailored Tuition is just one of these amazing programs that helps us to reach way more students than we otherwise would be able to.
Well, let's double down on some FAQs. If a family wants to know whether or not they would be eligible for a tailored tuition, we get this question quite often because they really don't want to go through the process without knowing this. We can have that conversation with the family and guide them through some case studies that we offer. As Adam mentioned so accurately earlier, no two families are alike. And so we can, again, offer that guidance and counsel. But the only way to know accurately is to have a thorough analysis through facts. And then we can go through that recommendation and definitively give them a report out once a student goes through the application process.
Yeah. I would kind of double down on this idea, right? Because we have seen situations where a family will come through our admission committee and hasn't identified themselves as a family who is likely to seek tailored tuition. Well, all of a sudden, we would love to further that conversation with that, but then they're not ready because they haven't done the tailored tuition process,
Exactly.
and it really slows things down, and it potentially could mean a missed opportunity for the child.
Exactly.
So important that a family go through both process simultaneously so we can really support that child. Things move quick in the world of admission these days, and we know that that matters.
Excellent segue. How long does it typically take to receive a tailored tuition decision? I'll open this up to both of you. I have a few rapid fire questions after this.
Yeah. So gosh, so our committee is meeting multiple times, sometimes multiple times in a week when we are in season. As the season lingers on, it might be once a week and then every other week, something like that. We work so hard to accommodate families here and to help them make good decisions. Typically, once we have all of the information that we need, we are getting back to families once the moment starts for us to begin issuing results on this process here. It's sometimes just a week or 2 weeks once we find ourselves in the groove of the season.
Okay.
And quite often, facts, as you can imagine, extraordinarily busy with many, many, many other clients across the country and the world. And so they offer that 2 weeks after you submit all your documentation and complete your application to facts, that they will get back to us. And so then the clock's ticking in the Randolph side to get the work done that we have to get done. And sometimes that doesn't line up quite as quickly as we would like it to. So just a reminder that we're waiting on facts and then we have our process internally to go through, but we try to be as responsive as possible.
So responsive. Sometimes it's Friday at about 5:30 p.m. when we're sitting around here trying to make great decisions so we can help families out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So about 2 weeks for facts and then 2 weeks for the tailored tuition committee. And we spoke about the tailored tuition committee a little bit earlier, but can we explain in more detail the size of the committee and the privacy that is respected within that committee and how that committee partners with facts to make sure that they're using the calculator from facts to then make the best informed decision possible?
Yeah, there are five of us on this committee. We actually use a model where half of us are representative of the business office. Okay, so they are working with numbers and billing and making sure we're staying true to our budgets and our calculations here. And the other committee really represents either the admissions side or the academic side here. The program will call it, so that way we are working to fit families in a way that makes sense not only to the school but to the families.
That's helpful. Now, you mentioned some of the factors that are considered in this calculation. Do we offer a multi-child discount?
We don't, but let me offer that is in many families' situations that when another child comes along, that is when they might become eligible for a tailored tuition. So no, to be clear, we do not offer a multi-child discount, but I have noticed that often when the younger sibling comes along and applies, that is when tailored tuition might actually kick in for a family. But again, every situation is different here.
That makes sense. So family size is considered holistically as part of the calculation.
Absolutely.
Like to ask both of you a question as we wrap up here. What's one thing that you hope families would take away from this conversation?
I'll jump on something Adam said earlier because I gave him, a couple of big thumbs up as he said it. My mentor for 15, 16 years impressed this upon me, and I share this often with families. This is a personal process. We are working with families about two very, very important topics, their children and their wallets. So it is sensitive information, are extremely careful with this information. We are treating this with the utmost confidentiality and we are treating it personally. So, as I said, Adam joins me on many a conversation as we may have questions about your tailored tuition application. If we see something that's not clear, we don't just act on it. We follow up with the family and have an opportunity to learn more so that again, it's just extremely personal. I have conversations every year that are challenging circumstances that families are conveying to our office, but we care deeply about the families that we are communicating with. We are managing their information and their applications with the utmost care and personal touch.
I'd say for me, Randolph is a selective school. We want to be a place of excellence. We want to be known not just in our community, but across the region, perhaps across the country, as a school that is best in class. And we've had really positive recognition for our efforts around the tailored tuition program, the way we operate it, the way we advertise it, the way we attract families to it, the way we serve children. Well, I hope that's always the case. And our care with this program helps to make us a more excellent school. And we believe wholeheartedly in that. I often say that Randolph always wants to be an elite school, but not an elitist school. And I think that the families, the students we see coming to us who benefit with tailored tuition help to make us that elite institution that we are. And Glenn talked to this as well, and I'll echo it that there's a human process that's involved with this. It's part calculation. We are relying on our third party platform here, but a lot of great conversation goes into this. And when families work hard to provide context for us, when families work hard to explain their story, it's very helpful for us as we're trying to understand the numbers sometimes that we are getting back from facts. So I would encourage families to be both private but also forthcoming with, especially with Glenn, who does a remarkable job guiding families through this process. So Glenn, thank you for your work, and you've been a huge champion for this program since you've been in this role.
It's a wonderful program that we're all very proud of, and a lot of hard work goes into it. And I'm glad you mentioned that you're encouraging them to be forthcoming with the information that helps us make good decisions. I would add one more note: don't sit at home and stew on a question or a problem. Pick up the phone and call. I will often, have a nudge from a community member that will say, someone's kind of confused or someone doesn't understand how this is working. Will you talk to them? And of course, we will talk to anyone. Our information is there, accessible. So call. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions of our team.
Such an important program, literally tailoring the cost of Randolph school education to each family's unique financial situation. Adam, thank you so much for your time and expertise and for all that you do for our team and for the school. And we are so grateful. And Glenn, thank you for all the hard work that you and your team do for this school, especially right now. It's peak admission season, and now's the time to apply. Now's the time for current families to reapply for tailored tuition. So, yes, just thank you again for all that you and your team do. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to this episode of Raiders in Focus.
Yes, and be sure to follow Randolph School on social media and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on all this good information. We also are announcing that we're going to partner with Facts to do a webinar in January to dive deeper into the weeds of application season. So just stay tuned for details on social media and through our admission landing page.
Until next time, this is Raiders in Focus.